Oh,
As
let's talk about the faculty. I
yes.
can't wait.
Because if you think about it in that sense, while the students are kind of playing the game, I guess that kind of socio-political game that you're talking about, the
Right, and
faculty is the one that's
quite literally the game of croquet at the
quite literally.
beginning. That's
Yes,
the
exactly.
illusion. That's the allusion to it. He starts with it and then starts to go social commentary with it. But yeah,
Correct. But if you think about it, if they're only playing the game of croquet, they're playing it because they had to learn it from somewhere. In that sense,
yeah,
the faculty is literally controlling the game in the film. They're the ones that, like, when everything starts kind of hitting the fan, they're kind of making decisions based on their own kind of standings and whatnot.
yes,
And that's why Mrs. Fleming,
Mrs. Fleming, right,
who's supposed to be the kind of the voice of reason. Again, she's a hippie. They literally call
right,
her a hippie, the other members of the faculty. But it's weird because, like, yeah, sure, she's acting like, I care deeply for these students. I care. In actuality, though, she's serving her own ends. If you think about it, she's doing all this stuff when tragedy starts hitting to further her own agenda and to kind of become the driving force behind how the other students feel about it.
yeah.
Again, while the students are playing the game, the faculty is controlling the game.
Yeah, it's almost like because they are the authority of the school,
Mm-hmm.
right? They create the policy, so to speak. And I keep getting into political allegory, but it's hard not to.
Yes.
They create the policy, so to speak. They create the events. That teacher creates the event that ultimately paints how the students feel, like you said. So that is what they're doing, and it's also just done with so much like sarcastic humor. There's this one joke that I laughed at in regarding the boardroom scenes of the faculty meeting to discuss what the hell are we going to do, what's going on here. I love after that first murder of Heather Chandler when Winona Ryder says, "Oh, she would never use the word myriad," and then Christian Slater is like, "No, she failed the test, but that proves my point further.
Yeah.
She's trying to be a better person or whatever."
She's wearing the badge of failure, and that's why she'd use the word myriad correctly in her suicide note.
Yes, the badge of failure. And it's just so like it's little moments like that create, I think, so much humor because they sneak up on you and you don't expect it. And then when it happens, it really hits you. So then in the boardroom scene, because they're kind of arguing before the boardroom scene, like when they're murdering her, what are we going to do about the word myriad? All right, fine, put it in there.
Exactly.
And then that one teacher, it's like her only line, that teacher, that says it in like the whole movie. She's like, they're all serious and like, what are we going to do about this? And she says, I do really enjoy I'm impressed by her proper use of the word myriad, though. It's just like the performance of that, the way that they cut to it and then away from it so briefly, the rhythm of it. It was so funny to me, and I always try to think about like meaning in humor and meaning in moments in not even necessarily like, oh, this entire sequence, this whole scene, this section, but like little moments in movies like this that make me never forget them. It's like when you're writing, you're thinking to yourself, I can put something filler in here, or it needs a little something, right? This scene, or I need to connect this scene to that scene. And I always think about that, like those injecting that little moment is so important, when you're screenwriting, because every single moment has the opportunity to live on its own as an independent sort of like a facsimile of the main meaning, but it lives on its own and you remember it. And I think that I always connect those moments in movies like this, and I draw like a map of the movie with moments that really get me. And that was one of them. The very first time I saw that, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I love that.
I feel like humor ultimately is the thing that makes great social commentary. A lot of social commentary, a lot of people think social commentary is just literally a big old fluffy speech that's clearly the writer talking as the character and saying, this is the thing that I believe in by God, and I'm going to tell you right now. But the best social commentary is satire. You
Sure.
know, it's cut with humor because how do you get an audience to relate? It's usually through humor, through a
Yeah.
joke that everybody's kind of thinking about already. But if you lay that joke in and you get it from the audience, they're already on your side a little bit more. Even if they disagree with what you're commenting on, at least they're there. It's like, all right, that was a funny line. All right, that
Yeah.
was a funny moment.
Yeah.
And again, great social commentary. You have to bring people to you. You can't push them away.
Yeah.
And I do think Heathers is a great example because it uses a very familiar genre, especially in the 1980s. Which is kind of the teen melodrama, let's call it for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And it's playing in that world where, if you saw a DVD of this film back in 2007, 2008, it had that high school classics insignia on it. And you're thinking literally, oh, it's like a John Hughes thing, right? Or something to that effect. In actuality, while, yeah, sure, it's kind of playing in that world, it subverts all those tropes incredibly well and, presents a world similar to ours through high school, which is an experience everybody's gone through. It's a universal thing, but uses to comment on broader things in society. And as a result, though, it brings you in because you feel like, one, there's a degree of separation because, again, not all of us are in high school currently, though it's a shared experience because we've all been through it.
Hmm.
But it also uses humor, dark humor, very dark humor,
Very dark.
and talking about subjects that are incredibly taboo. Murder, teenage
Yeah.
suicide, general angst, manipulation of authority, but tells it in a way that, again, it brings the audience in where, hey, we can talk about it now because we have you on your side. And that's why, in my
Yes.
opinion, social commentary needs to come from a place of humor, first and foremost.
Yes. Yeah, there are a lot of shocking moments in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Genuinely. Not even just because they're just objectively shocking, like, oh, it is shocking to watch a high school girl, pretty little cheerleader girl, drink Drano, choke up like her spleen, and then fall onto a coffee table, exploding it and not breathing anymore. Like, that was genuinely shocking to me. But also, just another layer of on top of that is that this is a movie from the late 80s.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
this thing is going on, what, 40 years old?
They're about
And
a couple
I'm
years.
just, yeah. And I'm just, it's 2025 now. I am not used to watching movies from the late 80s, teen comedies, like you said, the John Hughes kind of thing, Breakfast Club, and, Pretty in Pink and all that jazz. I'm not used to seeing this stuff in those movies. Like, you have an
No.
idea of those movies, right? They're very cutesy. She gets the girl or he gets the guy and things come together. And it's ultimately this feeling like everything's fine, everything's okay. It all works out for everyone in their own little way. This movie absolutely crushes that. It demolishes it. It smashes it to pieces over and over and over again. In every scene, in every line of dialogue, it seemed like that was their main mission. And I just couldn't get out of the shock mode at what this movie is doing. And
Yeah.
I can only imagine how insane and subversive that must have felt in 1989 when people were watching this in theaters.